How did this car, with futuristic gull-wing doors and a stainless steel body, barely last 3 years in production? Another powerhouse muscle car was abruptly discontinued as fuel crises hit hard. What made these cars so special, and why did they disappear? These are the 7 iconic American cars that changed history, and then disappeared. Let's kick things off with the car that many say started the muscle car craze. Number 7. The Pontiac GTO.
This is the great one, the ultimate driving machine.
Pontiac's team, led by John DeLorean, took an average Tempest and turned it into a beast by dropping in a 389 cubic inch V8 engine. In its early years, the GTO could achieve a 0 to 60 mph time in as little as 6.6 seconds, depending on the model and the engine configuration. This made it one of the fastest street cars of the 1960s. This bold move meant the GTO could hit 60 miles per hour in just over 6 seconds, making it one of the fastest street cars of its time. But what made the GTO stand out beyond its speed? Its aggressive styling. The GTO wasn't just fast, it looked the part too, with its sharp lines and signature rumble. Over the years, Pontiac offered several versions, including the legendary Judge trim in 1970, which pushed the estimated horsepower to 370. The GTO was all about making high performance available to the everyday driver, and for a while it succeeded. So why did the GTO disappear? Like many muscle cars, it just couldn't survive the stricter emissions regulations, rising insurance rates, and the oil crisis of the 1970s. By 1974, it was demoted to a trim option on the Pontiac Ventura, signaling the end of an era. But the GTO's legend lives on. It's still a collector's dream today. Did the GTO really kick off the muscle car revolution? Well, most enthusiasts would say absolutely. But now, let's talk about an underdog at number 6, the AMC Javelin. How did this car, from a smaller automaker like AMC, take on giants like the Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Camaro? AMC introduced the Javelin in 1968, offering a bold and stylish alternative in the competitive pony car market. One of its most exciting features was the option for a 390 cubic inch V8 engine, pushing out roughly 315 horsepower. The horsepower varied slightly depending on later models. But the Javelin wasn't just a street car, it was a winner on the racetrack too. In 1971, AMC entered the Javelin in the Trans Am Racing Series, where it took home the championship, thanks to drivers like Mark Donohue and the racing team led by Roger Penske. This success on the track gave the Javelin a cult following. So why did it fade away? Well, like many muscle cars of the time, the 1970s fuel crisis and the rising insurance costs hit the Javelin hard. AMC ended production in 1974, but the Javelin remains a sought-after classic, loved for its unique design and racing heritage. Can a car like the Javelin compete with the Mustang and Camaro? On the road and track, it certainly did. But at number 5, when the Ford Thunderbird first hit the streets in 1955, it wasn't just another sports car. Ford was aiming for something a little different. They called it a personal luxury car, blending performance with the kind of comfort you'd expect from a high-end vehicle. Powered by a 292 cubic inch V8, the first generation Thunderbird was sleek, stylish, and made a statement with its 2-seater convertible design. How did the Thunderbird evolve over the years? The Thunderbird was discontinued in 1997, but brought back briefly in 2002. As it went through different generations, the Thunderbird got larger and leaned more into the luxury market, appealing to a wider audience. By the 1960s and 70s, it had transformed into a big, opulent cruiser, losing some of its sporty feel, but gaining fans who wanted comfort with a touch of class. So, what caused the Thunderbird's decline? By the 1990s, the demand for large, personal luxury cars was waning, leading to its discontinuation in 1997. Ford did bring it back in 2002 with a retro-inspired model, but it never quite recaptured its former glory. What was the secret behind the Thunderbird's long-lasting appeal? It was a perfect blend of style, performance, and luxury, all wrapped into one iconic car. Next up at number 4, the Chevrolet Corvair. Unlike anything on the market at the time, the Corvair had a rear-mounted air-cooled engine, a design usually seen in European cars, not Detroit-made machines. Sounds pretty innovative, right? Well, it was, but it also brought its fair share of problems. The Corvair's unique setup earned both praise and criticism. Its turbocharged models offered a boost in performance, with almost 150 horsepower in earlier years, going up to almost 180 later on. But why didn't this car become a classic? Well, unfortunately, it was hit hard by bad press when Ralph Nader's book, Unsafe at Any Speed, accused the Corvair of having unsafe handling. Did this book really sink the Corvair? Pretty much. Despite improvements made by GM, the damage to its reputation was too great. In the end, the rising popularity of muscle cars like the Ford Mustang overshadowed the Corvair, and it was discontinued in 1969. Today, it's seen as a misunderstood car, one that had potential but never fully realized it. What about you? Do you think the Corvair deserved another chance? Number 3. The Plymouth Barracuda. Why is the Plymouth Barracuda often overlooked? It was overshadowed by its rival, the Ford Mustang. But make no mistake, the Barracuda was a serious contender, especially by the time its 1970 model came out. What made the Cuda stand out? Well, later models were powered by the legendary 426 Hemi V8 engine, delivering an estimated 425 horsepower. But not all Barracudas had this engine. On the drag strip, this car was a beast. So why did it disappear? Well, like many muscle cars, the Barracuda fell victim to stricter emissions rules, higher fuel prices, and the oil crises of the 1970s. By 1974, production stopped, but its legacy as a muscle car icon continues to grow, with collectors paying top dollar for the 1970 through 1974 models. Could the Barracuda have been bigger than the Mustang? Well, maybe not in sales, but in performance, it sure gave its rival a run for its money. At number 2, we've got the Oldsmobile Toronado. This wasn't just any luxury car, it changed everything. What made it so special? Well, it was the first American car in decades to feature front-wheel drive, powered by a massive 425 cubic inch V8 engine that cranked out an estimated 385 horsepower, which was based on the gross rating system. What that meant was that this car wasn't just about comfort, it had serious power too, going from 0 to 60 mph in just 8.6 seconds. But what really set the Toronado apart was its bold design. With hidden headlights, a sleek fastback roofline, and a spacious interior, it truly felt like the future. So, why didn't it last? Well, as the years passed, the Toronado shifted more towards luxury and away from performance. Sales began to drop, and by 1992, Oldsmobile pulled the plug. But even though it's gone, the Toronado is still remembered for pushing boundaries. Would you call it a luxury car, a performance car, or maybe both? And finally, at number 1, the DeLorean DMC-12. This car is instantly recognizable thanks to its role in the time travel classic movie Back to the Future. But did you know that this futuristic-looking car was actually kind of slow? Designed by the famous Giorgetto Giugiaro, the DMC-12 had that sleek stainless steel body and those cool gull-wing doors that made it look like a car from outer space. But when you popped the hood, things were a bit disappointing. With an estimated 130 horsepower from its 2.85-liter V6 engine, it could hit 60 miles per hour in around 8.8 to 10.5 seconds. Now, for a sports car, that's pretty underwhelming. I mean, would you expect a car that looks so fast to be this slow? But sadly, the DeLorean's struggles didn't end there. John DeLorean, the man behind the car, faced major financial problems right from the start. High production costs and poor performance meant the car just wasn't selling. In its short production run from 1981 to 1983, only about 9,000 units were made before the company went bankrupt. On top of that, the car's design came with some practical headaches. Those famous gull-wing doors were heavy, and the interior felt cramped. So, with all these issues, why is the DeLorean so famous today? Well, the answer lies in its pop culture status. Thanks to Back to the Future, the DeLorean has become a cult icon. Today, collectors scramble to own one of these cars, not for its speed, but for its unforgettable design and place in history. Do you think the DeLorean would be as famous if it hadn't starred in a blockbuster movie? Which of these cars would you love to see make a comeback? Let us know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.